In today's fast-paced real estate landscape, success demands more than surface-level expertise. It requires insight, adaptability, proven strategies, discipline, and the ability to take risk. The Agent Brew podcast blends candid conversations with wisdom from industry leaders who've walked the path before you. Think of us as your strategic pit stop to fuel your real estate journey. From the crossroads of the world in the heart of Times Square, welcome to the Agent Brew, a podcast that percolates real estate insights. I'm your host, Eric Zollinger of Realty Co. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another week, an episode of the Agent Brew, where we explore and navigate an agent's real estate journey. This week, we welcome Hollie Himmelman of Christies International Real Estate in Chicago. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate you having me.
You know, it's so good to have you here. I always like to start with how we know one another. And I believe it was September 2019 in Chicago at the Chicago Association of Realtors, CAR's annual gala. Theopsy took a table, and it was a little bit before I was going to move to Chicago. And there you were. And we met at the big gala. You looked amazing. And who knew at that evening that I was about to have a woman that would change my life?
Oh, Eric, thank you. I don't know if I changed it, but you and
No, you have certainly added to it. You know, I must say, everybody should have a Hollie in their life because it's very difficult to meet people and meet good friends the older you get and when you change cities. And Hollie, from the first time, I mean, I guess it was the NAR conference in San Francisco. You went with me to the related event, and you were even part of Theopsy. And it was just so much fun. And then we worked together at during the pandemic, when the day after I got my real estate license for Illinois, my new site got put on ice. So I just became an agent at. And during the pandemic, when nothing was happening, you shared a listing with me,
I did.
which I'm very grateful for, when basically it was Halloween to show apartments in PPE, in our full surgical masks.
Exactly. In our hazmat suits.
So I love that you're here. And I just want to say, I think your story and what you do is going to add a lot of insights for people because you've worked very hard. So why don't we start with your elevator pitch and then go from there? How about that?
All right. Sounds good. Well, Eric introduced me. I'm Hollie Himmelman with Christies International Real Estate in Chicago. I serve my clients throughout many Chicago neighborhoods along with the suburbs. And basically, my business has no boundaries with the Christie's Global Network. I've met a lot of agents around the country, and I've referred to a lot of agents. So it's wonderful.
Great. So you do both resales and new development?
Mostly resale, yes.
Okay.
I've sold. Years ago, I was on site at new development, but I'm resale. I do take clients to new construction if it's something they want to see, but I'm not on site. No.
Got it. So let's go back to your origin story. Where did you grow up, and how long have you been in real estate? Was there a career before that?
Well, I'm sort of an enigma. I grew up in Skokie, which is a nearby suburb of Chicago, and I've been in the city since 1982. I've been licensed since the mid-90s. However, I took a very long break and came back to real estate in 2017.
Oh, wow. So the break that you took, I think LinkedIn calls those career breaks. Did you do another career?
Yes. So it wasn't a career break. It was pivoting to another career. And what I did during that time, I wrote and performed as a comedian, produced my own shows in Chicago, and that's what I was doing for several years.
Oh, wow. What's fascinating is that that's not a normal career choice or lead back to real estate. I'm wondering, were you able to take a lot of clients, or was it difficult to restart your real estate career? Because I don't imagine many of your former clients had stuck through that time period.
Correct, correct. So it was basically starting over with my real estate, and I jumped in immediately to the deep end. At has their own in-house training. I, of course, took their training. I, over the years, have taken other training. I have 15 designations and certifications. And while I don't manage, I hold a managing broker's license, as well as being licensed in California. I haven't yet activated that license, but at some point in the near future, I will. So, yes, it was starting from scratch, and many weekends I did anywhere from 2 to 4 open houses for other brokers to help me get business, and I just, I mean, jumped in.
And with that, were there any particular skills that you brought over from your former career?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was able to hone my communication skills even deeper. I've always loved English. I love the language, but yet I really know how to resonate with people even better now. And one thing that I really, really learned, it transcends from me doing comedy to real estate, is know your audience.
That's so powerful. Know your audience. I think that's one of the foundations of being a salesperson, right? Understanding, knowing who they are. How can you connect with them and resonate with them? I've always known you to be a very good storyteller. All of your property copy, it just always tells a story, and I think that's something that you got from comedy as well, right?
I did, because when I was working in comedy, I'm not just a joke teller. I'm a storyteller, and I get to the funny and weave it through the story. And when I write copy in real estate for a listing, or I'm talking to a client, I I weave together a story so they can understand what we're discussing really well. I don't want to just throw data at them. I'd rather show them and talk about it than just tell them.
Got it. So, what was your procuring cause? What led you back to real estate?
Well, I kept the license in a holding network. So it was, I couldn't sell, but it was in a network where I still was obligated to take my continuing education, knowing that, it's a lot of work to get a license, right? So in case I
Yes,
ever,
especially in Illinois, it's
oh yeah,
what, 90 hours that you have to take?
I don't know what it is now,
Yeah, it
but
was 90 hours and then 45 hours within the next 2 years.
it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And I never say never. One never knows what's going to happen. So I came back because it's what I know. It still afforded me flexibility in my life, even though we work a lot of hours, we know that I like, and I get to engage with people. I have to be doing something where I'm with people. I'm not someone who can sit at an office desk all day long and be sequestered like that. I have to be amongst people. And if you want to know why I left doing comedy and did come back, that's because for me to do it bigger and better, let's say, I would have had to have traveled more and more and more, and it just wasn't going to be good if I wanted to stay married.
Understood. Yeah, being married is important, right? If you want to keep
Yes.
that
Yeah.
relationship.
Yes.
So you come back to real estate. Any mentors that you'd like to mention?
You know, this goes way back. It was my dad. My dad and grandpa had an electrical contracting business they started after World War II. And when I was a little girl, my dad would take me to new construction sites where he was doing the electrical contracting work. So I was exposed to the industry very early, and I'd always read my dad's Architectural Digest magazines when I was a little girl. So that captivated me, you know, architecture, design, housing. It was in my DNA.
That's great. So to move forward, any particular wins that you're most proud of?
Yeah. There is one that really sits so beautifully with me. It was during the pandemic and first time buyer. We were looking some properties we were losing out on, some just, weren't the right fit. I wound up writing 7 contracts for him. And yeah,
I'm going to pause for a second just because, we are a national podcast. And what's fascinating is that real estate is local, right? And so how we do things in New York, and I will say it's a primarily New York business. One of the things that I struggled with when I tried to do real estate outside of New York is that anytime you want to put in an offer, you have to write a whole new contract. It is not like in Manhattan, we find the meeting of the minds first, then we send a deal sheet to the attorneys, right? And so you don't waste all that back and forth and horrible, tedious, all the docu-signs and this and
oh
that.
yeah,
And so you have to actually do a full contract,
yes,
and that contract is you're not an attorney, you are filling in the blanks.
correct.
But still, that's very tedious. So to do 7
7.
contracts,
Yes, because they're all different properties, they're all different brokers on the listing side, right? So all
but
different yeah,
it's a different contract for every offer.
exactly.
Meaning, if you're putting 4 offers, that there's 4 back and forth, it's 4 brand new contracts on each side.
Well, not necessarily. So let's say, and I don't want to bore people with the detail in this, but if you were the listing broker and I presented a contract to you, and let's say, we're going back and forth on the terms, we can do a DocuSign and everyone initial the changes in that deal. But when I'm dealing with 7 different properties, yes, that's 7 contracts, right? So here's where the win comes in. I could see the frustration and concern, in my buyer. Was the buyer going to find the property? Were we going to get something, right? And I said, look, I know it's out there. We are going to find it. That's just, I'm relentless. I know it will happen. You work long enough, it's going to happen. We'll find it. And we did. And he's been happy in the home, that we finally got.
That's great. Now, how did you get that buyer originally? Was it, through your sphere of influence or?
I had a client referred to me from a broker I know in Iowa. She referred a client to me. I sold a loft to him. He referred this client to me.
That's great. You're always working, Holly, or always trying to better yourself, which I love. And
Thank you.
I'm hoping in this podcast we can accentuate that and let others know that it's never too late in your career to reinvent yourself and keep pushing yourself to do better. You're always on a webinar, and I love that about you. So, any other wins? Perhaps any I recall you being published in Mansion Global.
Yes. So there was a writer who reached out to me, was doing an article about a neighborhood in Chicago that I'm practically in every day. I shop there, I go to the hair salon, I do everything in that neighborhood. It's called River North. And she talked to me and, I submitted, some information about the neighborhood and, it was great. She did an article about River North. So it was very exciting.
Fantastic. Okay, so from here we like to go and play the gratitude game. So normally this is rose, rose, thorn, bud. And what that is, we like to do a little twist with coffee because we are, after all, the agent brew. Do you like coffee, Holly?
Eric, I love.
So just so everyone knows, that's something that Holly and I share. And I have 10 pounds of Cameron's coffee in my closet that I help order through Costco in Chicago with Holly.
The best coffee.
It
And
really
Eric,
is.
I froth. I have a handheld frother and I make my own cappuccinos.
Great. So the first one, rose, thorn, bud. We call it the aroma, right? It's that the scent of fresh brewing coffee every morning, and it's what gets you out of bed. So, Holly, what motivates you and gets you out of bed every day?
Oh, that's an easy one, Eric. Well, I get up very early, depending on the morning. It could be anywhere, seriously, from 3:30 till today. I slept a little later. I got up like 5:45. Um, it's the me time. It's Holly time at that time of day. And I literally sneak down the stairs so I don't make noise. I don't want to wake my husband or the dogs. And I'm smiling as I go down the stairs because there's no phone calls. I don't put on all I do is get the coffee going.
So then the next step is the brew. It's what sustains you, it's what moves you. Some might say it's what is your why?
Well, for me, and it goes back to the first one, I get so energized in the morning. After
Hmm.
the coffee, it's a workout. I have a little gym I set up in our lower level. It gets me so energized. And I'm like, oh, I got the day. I am going to do the best job today on behalf of my clients. If it's not something I need to specifically work on, schedule a tour or something, I'm working on my marketing. I will make sure I do the best job possible in that day. So that's my why.
That's great. Uh, so from there we go on to the thorn, that frustration. Is there anything right now causing you, frustrations?
I'm sure I'm not the only one with this issue. It's the prioritizing and sticking to task. It's very easy in our business to get distracted and you're working on something and then, oh, an email comes in, the phone dings and, you're all over the place. So I really make an effort to, if I'm working on something, I I put the phone on mute. I may have it face up so I can see if it's an important call, but I need to focus and get things done. Otherwise, it's a never-ending process of anxiety.
I have to admit, I feel the same way. It's having that focus time, and I always say, every day I try to make my day better by time blocking. But even sometimes the time blocking falls apart.
I know.
Um, you know, I, I think more than a frustration, it's just something that we all deal with, and that we just have to work towards every day. Right? It's a lifelong process, and um, I find that we've at Realty Co. We recently implemented Monday.com, which it changed my life when I was at DEDM in Texas. And when we started to use it here, I was so excited because it's just one of those. It's the first time I found technology that really makes my life easier and can help remind me and put everything in one place. So perhaps that's something that might be able to help you too.
It's a good idea. And, on the flip side of that, Eric, I don't like to say I need to be so disciplined because sometimes you do have to have some flexibility, right?
Yes,
In a day. Things do come up, things change, and you do need to be able to switch gears. But I don't want it to be where it's just because of a distraction.
understood. So the final part of the gratitude game is the fresh beans. This is the bud. What are you looking forward to? Is there a project, a new listing?
Well, couple things. I have actually a great, I just got another great referral from a friend. Um, and we're going to be out starting to look. This is a buy. What I'm also looking forward to, as I've mentioned to you before, I do quarterly events for clients, friends, new people that I meet. I want to show people that it's fun, right? You can hang out with me. We can have fun. It's not just, let's list or buy a house. So my big summer event's coming up next month. I did this last year. It was a huge success. We do miniature golf. and they have a restaurant on premise. They cater the pizza. I bring lots of other food as well. I set up the foursomes with names of all the famous golf courses around the world, and we have prizes, and everyone has a blast.
That's great. I mean, you're always about adding value and doing events that are fun. I recall you also did one at a wine tasting, which I thought was just fantastic.
I do the
And
wine tastings a few times a year. I've done events at uh, an art gallery. I try to think of things that people will enjoy, things that I like to do. I'm like, all right, what else would I like to do? Where can I take people that they'll have a good time?
and Chicago is a very difficult market, having worked there firsthand, because there, as David Wolf always explained to me, he goes, the market only goes up or down 2 or 3% each year, and the taxes are crazy. So it's not like we have these huge gains like New York, where you can, make a sizable amount. Um, so it really becomes an asset that costs you money, and you're not always making money at the end. So it becomes very challenging.
Yeah, and again, it depends because every as you said earlier, every market, is its own little microcosm, right? And that, comes down to neighborhoods, buildings as well.
Well, and with your price point, it's not all high-end luxury. So with that, what I'd like to say is that you always come up with these awesome, meaningful gifts, which I find incredible. Like last year for your golfing event, you had these little hand towels with everybody's names embroidered in there. And so what I will say to that is that I'm excited to be part of Realty Blue, but this is a little teaser. We are soon to launch Realty Blue, which is an awards program that all of our clients are able to utilize. And it's, again, we're adding value to the regular agent. And so while we have our other pillars, this is a way for you to get discounts and services on things that you're going to use. And I'm specifically trying to pinpoint and have our business department. I'm using you as an example, Holly, because I really think what RealtyGo has is going to benefit you and save you money, more importantly. So stay tuned.
Sounds great.
Now, we end every podcast. The final section is advice. If you could give your young agent self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I would tell young Holly, get a mentor when you're beginning, or a coach, or, maybe they're the same thing. Reason being why I think that's so important is we get licensed, right? We're study, study, study. Sort of like, when one goes to college, you study, study, study. That's your foundation.
But that doesn't teach you how to do business.
Exactly. College doesn't teach you the career that you might go into, right? You're going to learn it. Same with real estate. You need to know how this business works, right? So you need someone to help you navigate that journey at the onset. As you get further along into it, you'll come up with your own marketing ways and things, what you want to do. But I think every new agent needs some guidance.
You mentioned the word coach, and I love how no matter how many years you've been in the business, you've taken at marketing course, but now you have a marketing coach that takes care of your social media. I mean, I love the fact that you're really working hard to plant the seeds for future growth. So what would you say your advice is to other agents out there in this time period that might be struggling?
I would say really look at what your struggles are, make a list. I write everything down. I'm a handwriter. I like pen and paper. Write it down. Think of ways. I think I said this to you the other day when you and I were talking. Think of ways you can be potentially where others may not be or may not be so strong in doing. I was telling a colleague, I live in a neighborhood of primarily single family homes. Okay. Now you can't do condo buildings, but it's the weather's getting nicer again. I will be creating a market report for the neighborhood, and I will be door knocking literally in my neighborhood and giving the market report to neighbors to say, hey, this is what's going on in the area. Just thought you might, want to see, you know, and chatting with them. I did it last summer, and I met neighbors that I didn't know on different blocks. So it's a way to connect.
And I'm curious with that, did you see immediate results or have you continued to do it over time?
It's like anything else. It's not immediate results. It typically isn't. You plant that little seed, right? And
Hmm.
eventually, you get a full vine of tomatoes, right? Or, whatever you're planting. So it isn't always like that. But if I don't make the connection, I'll never grow anything.
Right, right. Um, we come to the point in the podcast at the end where I always like to end with a positive quote. Now, I know you also love positive quotes. So would you like to share one?
Yes. So one of my favorites, was a humorist, Mark Twain. And I recently rewatched his documentary on PBS. And there's so many quotes he has, and I may not say it exactly as I saw it written, but he said something that goes like this: do the thing that you fear most, and the death of fear is most certain.
Say it again.
Do the thing that you fear most, and the death of fear is most certain.
I love that. That's words to live by.
And I thought about that because oftentimes things scare me, and I'm like, should I do it? Should I not? Doing comedy was the scariest thing I had ever done outside of climbing the Alps, hiking the Alps. Um, but like, yeah, once you do something scary, you're like, hey, I did it.
That's wonderful. So mine today comes from none other than, of course, Zig Ziglar, who has been quoted many times on this podcast. Um, so this week's quote is expect the best, prepare for the worst, capitalize on what comes. Expect the best, prepare for the worst, capitalize on what comes. So Hollie Himmelman of At Properties, Christie's International Real Estate in Chicago. Thank you for being a part of Agent Brew this week.
Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate you having me.
Our pleasure. And we invite everybody to tune in to another episode of the Agent Brew. I just want to take this time. In the past, we've had some issues with our internet. So I'm happy to report that today we are now hardwired. And so it's an opportunity for me to say thank you to our internal team, to Kevin, to Briggs, to Aiden, Katie, and also to Sydney. It takes a team. And before getting today up and running with our new system, it was a little challenging. So thank you. It takes a village, and I'm grateful for Realty Co. and for the team to get this up. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, it's a great day for real estate. The Agent Brew podcast is brought to you by Realty Co. Realty Co. is your partner in real estate, bringing you game-changing benefits and services to empower your business. Visit realtyco.com for more information.